This is the shirt continued. Step 4B. We're taking our facing and we're putting it on top of our collar. We're going to sandwich it. So we're going to start the pinning here at the center front, lining up the facing. And then where we see the shoulder seam, we're going to line it up, but we're putting them opposite. Right? The body of the garment, we caught back, and the front facing, we caught forward. So we're lining up the seam and putting a pin all the way through. Then we're coming over to the other side. The other shoulder seam. Grabbing a pin. Having the facing forward and the shoulder back. Then we're going to the center front and putting our last pin just to anchor everything. These are anchor pins. Another good anchor pin is actually at the center back as well. So we've got 5 anchor pins for the neckline. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the pins in between each one of our anchor pins, dividing the space. So we'll go from the center back to the shoulder, divide that space and put a pin. And then between those pins, put another, and that's 1 inch away. And here we go here. We divided that space, and we're putting pins 1 inch away from each other. We're at the shoulder to the center back. Divide that space in half. Pins all the way through. Then we'll divide the space that we just created and pin all the way through. We're pinning on the wrong side of the facing. The collar's in between, and here's the body of the garment. So when we finish sewing in the neckline, we're just going to see our edge stitch and the collar. It's going to look real nice. Go ahead and put another pin. Divide that space. Now we can do the front neckline. First off, I'm just going to go ahead and anchor that right where the collar joins and get a pin in that area. It's real important that we catch that correctly. Okay, so I've got the collar secured. Then I'm going to put a pin and divide this space. Then from the collar to the shoulder seam, divide that space, get a pin in there. Great. Going to ease a little excess in if we need to there with our pins. Now we're going to go back to the other side. We're going to go ahead and first anchor where the collar is. Then we're going to divide that space to the shoulder. Put Put those pins in between. Here's from where the collar is to the front. Let's get a pin in there. Looks like we're ready to go. Let's go ahead and start here. We're right here at the center front, and look, we haven't done the front. Center front neck is where we're starting. Go ahead and drop it down, and you're going to sew a little bit more than 1/4 inch. Just a little bit more than 1/4. Maybe about 3/8 should be sufficient to cover your last stitch. Let's go forward, little back stitch, and as you of course come to your pins, remove those right where the collar was anchored, so it's going to be a little thick going through the seam allowance layers there. We're trying to do 3/8 inch seam allowance for our neckline now, so it covers up our original stitches. We're getting towards the shoulder. I'm smoothing out any bumps as I approach them, releasing the shoulder pin. Hopefully it'll go smoothly through the shoulder because we have the seams splayed out from each other. Now we're going on the back neckline, still trying to work out any little puckers I might have. I don't want to catch a little pucker. And I don't want to catch all the rest of this garment here either, so we just have to make sure to release any layers of fabric that we might have underneath so they're not going through the sewing machine by accident as a surprise. Like our hem. Could be sewing through our neckline. That would be unfortunate. Right there, I thought I caught a pucker, so let me ease something out in case anything's getting too full. Releasing my pins, making it along my back neckline, almost to my shoulder seam. Sewing my 3/8 inch. Have to remove my pin, my shoulder seam. Onto the front neckline. Got a little excess fabric there. Great, just work that in. Looks good. Let's do a little bit of a back stitch. Trim our threads. That looks great. And that is the end of step 4B.